My cousin, who moved into our earl's mansion at 5, was the closest sister to me. She often urged me to live freely, savoring 3 large pig's trotters per meal, paired with candied fruit, soft cheese, and steaming buns. Yet she ate only plain boiled greens, daily practicing dance with bound feet and a waist as slim as a willow. At 15, we held our coming-of-age rites together. I was mocked as the region's famously plump maiden, while her single dance dazzled the capital. The heir, my betrothed, loathed my figure and broke off our engagement, proposing to her instead. I didn't cry, didn't fuss, just packed my things in silence. A year later, as his wife, she attended a palace banquet. Glancing up, there I was beside His Majesty, calmly gnawing a pig's trotter. Her noble mother-in-law slapped her forehead with a sharp crack. "What are you staring at? That's the noble consort. Kneel now." The day Huo Zisheng brought the betrothal token to my door to break off our engagement, I was halfway through eating a pig's trotter. The trotter had been braised for 3 hours, its aroma melding with the rich sauce, the meat so tender it melted in my mouth. I looked forward to eating 3 of them at every meal. But today, I'd only taken a few bites when my wet nurse sent by my mother hurriedly dragged me away. "My lady, the heir Huo has come to break off the engagement. How can you still sit there eating?" The heir of the Yong'an Marquise, Huo Zisheng, had been betrothed to me since I was in my mother's womb. But after my coming-of-age ceremony, his gaze never left my cousin. He even composed poems praising her beauty in front of everyone. I followed my wet nurse to the main hall. Huo Zisheng stood before my parents, his chin raised, his expression brimming with arrogance. "Lord and Lady Jiang, today I will end this engagement no matter what. Jiang Qinrui is so fat, it's nauseating to look at her. What man would marry her, let alone allow her to take the role of the heir's wife?" My father's face turned red with rage, his hand clutching his chest as he trembled. My mother's complexion went pale, nearly fainting on the spot. Yet Huo Zisheng pressed forward, closing in step by step. "Your Jiang family was already reaching above your station by forming this alliance with our marquisate. If you're reluctant to let go of the wealth and status of the Huo family, why not let this engagement pass to Mian instead? She's gentle and virtuous. I've long admired her. She's the one truly worthy of marrying into the marquisate as my legitimate wife." The grand hall erupted into chaos. Meanwhile, my cousin, Liu Mian, hid behind a pillar. Her eyes shimmered like water, filled with an innocent gaze. Her slender figure swayed like a drooping willow, her arched brows resembling crescent moons. Her tiny feet were clad in embroidered lotus shoes, a silver bell tied at her waist tinkling softly in the breeze, accentuating her delicate, fragile charm. When she was 5, my parents brought her into the mansion to keep me company, worried I'd be lonely. As a child, I often suffered foot pain from practicing dance, and she advised me, "A woman's life is already hard enough. We should live according to our hearts. Life is but a fleeting 100 years. If we can't even decide what we like or dislike, isn't that too pitiful? Dear cousin, if you don't like dancing, then don't learn it anymore." I was young and believed her. From then on, I never practiced dancing again. Encouraged by her, I indulged in 3 portions of pig's trotters at every meal. But she never slacked off. She sought out a dance master on her own, training relentlessly through freezing winters and scorching summers. She ate only boiled greens at every meal, even spending her own money to hire a wet nurse to bind her waist. Now at 15, I was plump like a pearl, while she was lithe and graceful, reminiscent of Empress Zhao from 700 years ago, who could dance on the palm of a hand. At our coming-of-age ceremony, her single dance sent shockwaves through the capital, earning her the title of a celestial fairy among mortals from scholars and poets. Meanwhile, standing beside her, I was ridiculed as Fatty Jiang. I understood why my parents were reluctant to end this childhood betrothal, not because they coveted the Huo family's status, but because they feared I'd struggle to find a better match in the future. At that moment, Liu Mian spoke, her eyes brimming with tears, her voice trembling. "Brother Huo, this is all Mian's fault. I'm just a guest living off the Earl's kindness. How could I steal my cousin's fate? Though my cousin is a bit plump and has a fiery temper, she's still the rightful fiancé of the heir. Mian is willing to give Brother Huo back to my cousin. Brother Huo, Please forget me. I don't deserve such fortune. Huo Zisheng's face twisted with distress. Mian Mian, it's exactly because you're too kind that you let others bully you. I will marry no one but you. If they refuse, I agree, I cut in coldly. I consent to breaking off the engagement. I stepped forward calmly into the center of the hall, holding up the Huo family's betrothal token with both hands. My expression serene. Let's end this engagement. Please return my token, and from now on, we owe each other nothing. Huo Zisheng's eyes widened in disbelief. Jiang Qinrui, you're really agreeing to this? Besides me, no one in the entire capital would be willing to marry you. Lu Mian Mian, tears streaming down her face, choked out. Cousin, don't speak so harshly. Brother Huo is the best man in the world. My parents nearly fainted. My daughter. I shook my head slightly, reassuring them, then stepped closer to Huo Zisheng, extending my hand. Let me confirm once more. Return the token, and from now on, there will be no ties between me and the heir. Whether you marry my cousin or someone else in the future, it will have nothing to do with this earl's mansion. Fine, fine, fine! Huo Zisheng's face contorted with an inexplicable anger. He yanked the jade pendant from his waist and threw it to the ground with force. Here, take it! Someone like you is only fit to become a nun in a temple. Mian Mian is the one I truly love. Lu Mian Mian looked at him with teary eyes. Brought her Huo, give my cousin another chance. For the sake of you and my cousin, Mian Mian, is willing to be a concubine. Huo Zisheng immediately grasped her hand tightly. Don't say such foolish things. My wife will only be you. As for Jiang Qinrui, if no one else is willing to marry her, I'll take her as a concubine for Mian Mian's sake. Don't let her bully you again. Brother Huo. Lu Mian Mian moved to tears, nestled into his arms like a little bird seeking refuge on a branch. I didn't even spare them a glance. I bent down, picked up the jade pendant from the floor, and slowly tucked it into my sleeve. No need. My marriage will be arranged by my parents. The heir need not concern himself. Huo Zisheng sneered. Do you think you're Mian Mian? Everyone in the capital knows you as the infamous Fatty Jiang. What man would dare marry you? Being allowed into the marquisate as a concubine is only because of Mian Mian's kind heart. Lu Mian Mian dabbed her mouth with a handkerchief, speaking softly. My cousin must be heartbroken right now. Why does she still force herself to act strong? I paid no heed, only gently comforting my enraged parents. Seeing my indifference, Huo Zisheng took Lu Mian Mian's hand and left. My mother clutched her chest, her face pale. Lu Mian Mian is truly ungrateful. We raised her with all our hearts, yet she stole my Qinrui's betrothed. Now that the engagement is broken, Qinrui's reputation will be even harder to salvage. My poor child. My father furrowed his brow and slammed the table with force. Qinrui, don't worry. If you can't marry, so be it. Your parents will take care of you for life. I continued to eat and drink as usual. Huo Zisheng breaking off the engagement didn't affect my mood at all. In the mansion, preparations for Lu Mian Mian and Huo Zisheng's wedding were already underway with great fanfare. My parents, furious that she had stolen my betrothal, initially refused to let her marry from the earl's mansion. But her birth parents lived far away in Huizhou, their home in ruins, unable to arrange a wedding or see her off. Huo Zisheng brought Lu Mian Mian to my parents, one crying, the other threatening, pulling every trick in the book. Out of consideration for the years they'd raised her, my parents eventually softened, unwilling to let her be mocked by the world, and agreed to let her marry from the earl's mansion. I, too, decided not to dwell on it. But that day, upon returning from outside, I found a group of people secretly opening my private storeroom, brazenly moving things out. That storeroom held all the dowry my parents had prepared for me over the past decade, each item a rare treasure. My favorite peach blossom glazed vase was shattered on the ground. The calligraphy painting my parents had searched far and wide for was trampled underfoot. I was so furious my blood boiled, and I shouted, "Who dares cause trouble in my earl's mansion? Servants, seize them all!" The maids beside me, knowing how much I cherished these items, rushed forward without hesitation to surround them. At that moment, Lu Mian Mian stepped out from the crowd, her face wearing the smug smile of a petty victor. Dear cousin, don't be angry. It's all Brother Huo's doing. Today, he saw that the dowry my parents prepared for me was rather modest, and he felt sorry for me. He thought since you wouldn't be marrying anyone anyway, he had people move your dowry over to me. Brother Huo also said he'd give you some betrothal gifts as compensation and allow you to enter the marquisate as a concubine on the day of my wedding. Cousin, don't be ungrateful. If you refuse this time, I fear there won't be another chance. I was so angry I laughed, the corners of my lips curling. Very well. Lu Mianmian paused, but quickly revealed a look of disdain. Cousin, if Brother Huo knew you were so magnanimous. Magnanimous, my foot! I strode forward and slapped her with a force that echoed through the room. You ungrateful wretch, living off the Earl's mansion for years, eating our food, staying in our home, and now you dare covet my dowry? Before my hand could lower, Huo Zisheng stormed in from outside, shoving me to the ground with force. Jiang Qinrei! You venomous woman, I knew you were jealous that Mian Mian is marrying me, but moving the dowry was my idea. You can be wrong in 1,000 ways, but you shouldn't have laid a hand on Mian Mian. I originally planned to treat you well after marrying Mian Mian, but with this attitude, you're not even worthy of stepping into the marquisate. I moved your dowry only because your parents were biased. The gifts for Mian Mian were all meager. I'm just helping her take what she deserves. Lu Mianmian's birth parents hadn't prepared anything for her. Though my parents couldn't match the dowry they gave me, the betrothal gifts for her far exceeded what an ordinary family could afford. I let out a cold laugh, slowly pushing myself up. Lu Mianmian is nothing but a guest in the Earl's mansion. We haven't even asked her for a single coin. Yet she dares to dream of my dowry? If she thinks her own betrothal gifts are too shabby, she can just not marry. Now, return everything that was taken from my courtyard immediately, exactly as it was. Otherwise, I'll report this to the authorities. I wonder if the news of the future heir's wife stealing another's dowry for her own betrothal will stir up the capital? Lu Mianmian sobbed pitifully. Cousin, after more than a decade of sisterhood, all Mianmian asks for is a little from you. How can you be so heartless? Huo Zisheng gritted his teeth. Jiang Qinrei, you're truly narrow-minded. Do you still dream of being the heir's wife? Don't delude yourself. Using such tactics to threaten me won't work. I will love only Mian Mian in this lifetime. Forget being a concubine. I don't even want you. With that, he lowered his voice to comfort the woman in his arms. Don't worry, Mian Mian. I'll prepare a dowry twice as grand for you. Just be a radiant bride. He shot me a glare, then left with her in his arms, exiting the courtyard. I was left alone, bending down to pick up the shattered pieces of the vase and the trampled painting. True to his word, Huo Zisheng delivered. A few days later, gold, silver, jewelry, and rare treasures poured into Lu Mianmian's courtyard like a river. She flaunted them in front of me every other day. This is a jade hibiscus hairpin. Brother Huo went to great lengths to find in Jiangnan. He said only such rare treasures are worthy of a beauty like me. Brother Huo also said the marquisate values this marriage greatly. The wedding banquet will be grander than even a prince's. Cousin, I know you've always looked down on me, but the heir's wife is an officially titled position. Once I marry into the marquisate, you and your parents will have to bow to me. I paid no attention, quietly packing my belongings. She asked again, "What's this? Are you so ashamed that you're planning to flee back to the countryside? But you can hide for a while. Can you hide forever? Sooner or later, I'll make you kneel before me." On her wedding day, Lu Mianmian deliberately ordered a transparent four-sided sedan chair, ensuring everyone could see her radiant beauty from any angle. She wore a wedding robe embroidered with golden thread, a phoenix crown adorned with gold on her head, her every step exuding elegance and nobility as she sat proudly in the sedan. The distance from the Earl's mansion to the marquisate was only 2 miles, yet she ordered the sedan to circle the capital twice, as if she couldn't wait for the entire world to know how much the heir adored her. Miss Liu is so beautiful. No wonder the heir broke off his engagement with Miss Jiang to marry her. How could the fat girl from the Earl's mansion compare? She's not even worth a finger of the heir's wife. Being jilted was only natural. Lu Mianmian finally got her wish, becoming the envy of all. Even at the palace banquet, countless people flattered and fawned over her. I heard the heir refuses to take concubines for his wife's sake. The earl's mansion treated her so poorly back then for the sake of their own daughter. They must regret it now. Their own daughter can't find a suitor. I heard that fat girl even begged to be a concubine, but was rejected, then fled to the countryside to lick her wounds. Tch, how humiliating. If I were her, I'd have hanged myself long ago. Lu Mianmian delicately covered her mouth with a handkerchief, hiding the smugness in her eyes. Don't speak of my cousin like that. Her marriage falling apart pains me too. I've pleaded with Brother Huo several times, but he still refuses to take her into the mansion. Just now, I coaxed him again, and he finally relented, agreeing to give my cousin a chance, to serve as a chambermaid in the household. If she hears she can enter the mansion to serve Brother Huo, she'll surely be overjoyed. She giggled as she spoke, but at that moment a shrill voice rang out from inside the hall. A young eunuch announced, "His Majesty and the noble consort invite all lords, ladies, and young misses to enter the hall." The noblewomen hurriedly lined up, adjusting their attire. Whispers buzzed about the mysterious noble consort, who rarely showed her face. Even Liu Mianmian was filled with curiosity. She adjusted the heavy phoenix crown on her head, cautiously lifting her gaze to peek forward. Inside the hall, I was seated beside His Majesty, gnawing on a pig's trotter. Yesterday, the man beside me insisted on enlightening me in the afternoon, causing me to miss dinner. I hadn't eaten anything this morning either. Now, savoring a pig's trotter braised for 3 hours in chicken broth, its rich aroma, its tender meat, was truly a delicacy of the mortal realm. I ate with relish, chewing while glancing around, when I spotted Liu Mianmian kneeling in the front row of the crowd. All the women had knelt, but she stood frozen, as if struck by lightning, her face deathly pale. Impossible! Impossible! Who is she? The Marchioness of Yong'an, her future mother-in-law, saw her reaction and in a fit of rage, slapped her forehead with a loud smack. "What are you staring at? That's the noble consort. Kneel down at once." Liu Mianmian's legs felt like iron pillars driven into the ground. She couldn't kneel no matter how hard she tried. How can she be the noble consort? Didn't she flee to the countryside? At the men's banquet table, Huo Zisheng noticed Liu Mianmian's unusual expression. Following her gaze, he froze in shock. "Jiang Qinrui, how are you up there? How dare you? You even offend His Majesty." "Come down at once." Before I could speak, the man beside me, the supreme ruler of the land, darkened his face and bellowed coldly. "Outrageous! The heir of Yong'an and his wife see us and the noble consort yet fail to pay respects. Are you plotting treason?" Liu Mianmian and Huo Zisheng's legs turned to jelly at the reprimand, forcing them to kneel and pay their respects before me. She never imagined she'd see me here. Even when she stood up, her face remained pale, her soul seemingly adrift. I couldn't be bothered to dwell on it. I gave her a casual glance and continued gnawing on my trotter. She, however, conjured up 100 scenarios in her mind. Her face alternated between red and white, her eyes filled with hatred. Finally, she bit her lip hard, as if making a resolute decision. Halfway through the banquet, I invited the noblewomen and young ladies to stroll through the plum garden to admire the flowers. Unexpectedly, in the short time I was away, I returned to find Liu Mianmian kneeling at the feet of His Majesty Xia Lian. She had changed into a sheer red gown, a silk sash wrapped around her slender waist, flowing like water. Kneeling in the snow, her soft, pleading voice carried a resolute tone. "May your Majesty forgive my boldness. I risk offense today because I cannot bear to see your Majesty deceived by a vile person, and thus dare to speak out. That woman, Jiang Qinrui, once harbored delusions about my husband. When he discovered her depraved character and reckless behavior, she often bullied me. After her engagement was broken, she persisted in her entanglement, repeatedly humiliating me, even shamelessly begging to become his concubine. I don't know what schemes she used to enter the palace, but how can someone like her be worthy of standing by your Majesty's side?" Her back was straight, her gentle demeanor like a lotus at dawn, still dewed with morning mist. The guards beside Xia Lian couldn't help but look at her with pity. Even Xia Lian's gaze turned toward her. Seeing this, a smug smile flickered at the corners of Liu Mianmian's lips, though her voice grew more choked. "When I lived in the Earl's mansion, Jiang Qinrui and her parents often mistreated me. I never had enough to eat, and my belongings were constantly taken by her. But as a guest in their home, I dared not speak up. Later, when it was time for me to marry, they brazenly withheld my dowry to lavish it on their beloved daughter. At this point, tears streamed down her face. I never intended to bring up these old grievances, but for some reason, seeing Your Majesty stirred such overwhelming emotions in me. Xiaolian suddenly spoke. "Come here, sit beside us." A spark flashed in Lu Mianmian's eyes. She immediately raised her shy, pitiful face, her voice soft. "Thank you, Your Majesty, but my status is lowly, I fear." Before she could finish, I stepped out from behind, calmly sitting beside Xiaolian. "Why linger so long outside the pavilion? You didn't even bring a hand warmer after walking for so long. If you catch a cold, won't that make us worry?" Xiaolian spoke as he lowered his head, carefully brushing the snow from my cloak. Only then did Lu Mianmian realize those words were meant for me. In an instant, her face shifted from red to white, then white to red again. Xiaolian took my hand, holding it in his palm for a long while, as if forgetting there was someone still kneeling below. "What did you just say?" "In front of our noble consort, repeat it clearly." Lu Mianmian gritted her teeth, kneeling in the cold snow, unable to utter a single word. I chuckled lightly, glancing at her. "What's wrong, Lady Huo? Won't you continue? Or do you have some grievance against me? You claim my parents treated you harshly, leaving you hungry. Let me ask you, the jade hairpins, bracelets, and emeralds you wore, which one wasn't worth 1,000 taels of silver? If my parents could give you such treasures, how could they not feed you? Or does Lady Huo think herself so noble that only boiled greens are worthy of her?" Lu Mianmian bit her lip, a venomous glint flashing in her eyes. "So what? Those things were just for me to show off, to make others praise them. It was all a facade." I gave her a cold glance, turning to Xiaolian. "My parents raised Lady Huo for over a decade, always treating her like their own daughter. Countless people in the mansion can testify to that. With one slanderous claim, can she erase all the years of care they gave her? Your Majesty, by law, what is the punishment for a child who slanders and is unfilial to their parents?" Xiaolian lifted his teacup, taking a leisurely sip before replying. "By law, 60 strokes of the cane and exile to the northwest. Considering she is now the heir's wife, we'll waive the exile but increase the punishment. 80 strokes. What?" Lu Mianmian could no longer hold herself up. "Your Majesty, I've been wronged. Please don't believe that vile woman's one-sided words." Xiaolian smirked. "We don't trust our beloved consort. Should we trust you instead?" "Guards, drag her out!" Several guards stepped forward, grabbing her by the arms and legs to haul her away. Halfway out, Huo Zisheng appeared out of nowhere, throwing himself in front of her. "Your Majesty, Mianmian has always been kind-hearted. Everything she said is true. If the Jiang family didn't mistreat her, why is her body so frail? Please don't punish her harshly for a few words." "The one who should be punished is Jiang Qinrui. She's the deceitful one. Every word she says is a lie." I let out a cold laugh. "Huo Zisheng, did you personally witness my parents mistreating her? You speak so confidently. Don't tell me you were lurking outside my cousin's room every day, eavesdropping." Huo Zisheng puffed out his chest, retorting, "Though I didn't see it with my own eyes, Mianmian told me. Every time you bullied her, she cried and confided in me. Mianmian is kind. She doesn't know how to lie. It's you who's jealous that Mianmian married me, so you're framing her like this." I stood slowly, shaking my head lightly. Every expense in the Earl's mansion is meticulously recorded. Whether she was mistreated or not can be verified with a glance at the ledgers. I'll have someone make a copy and send it to all the court officials and noble ladies as proof. Lu Mianmian hadn't expected me to bring up the ledgers. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. She quickly tugged at Huo Zisheng's sleeve, her voice soft. "Brother Huo, let it go. We shouldn't stoop to my cousin's level. She once secretly admired you, and now that I've married you, it's natural for her to harbor resentment. Cousin, everything is in the past. I've already forgiven you." Lu Mianmian nestled into Huo Zisheng's arms like a little bird as soon as she finished speaking. I let out a cold laugh. "This matter isn't for you to decide. After the ledgers are copied, I'll have someone calculate the exact amount Lady Huo spent in the Earl's mansion over the years. Since she refuses to acknowledge the care she received, she can repay it all, principal and interest, not a single coin less. Huo Zisheng snorted coldly. Fine. Calculate it. The ledgers were promptly brought out, every expense recorded clearly. But the more they read, the uglier everyone's faces became, for the amount she spent far exceeded mine, the legitimate daughter of the mansion. Lu Mianmian's face turned ashen. Even Huo Zisheng couldn't believe it, staring at the ledger in front of him. Impossible! This ledger must be forged! I glanced at him coldly. Lady Huo's dance captivated the capital. Did she teach herself? Back then, the Earl's mansion hired the best dance master in the capital for her. The monthly fee was nearly 500 taels, plus custom-made dance costumes and shoes. It easily surpassed that amount. As for me, I only ate a few pig's trotters per meal. A trotter costs just a few hundred wen, barely a few dozen taels a month. Or are the heir and his wife planning to default on the debt? Huo Zisheng's face turned green. Finally, he gritted his teeth and ordered someone to bring a banknote, placing it before me. It's settled. Can I leave now? No. Xia Lian, who had been silent until now, spoke coldly. If we recall correctly, Lady Huo still owes 80 strokes of the cane, but it's not non-negotiable. Heir Huo, since you love your wife so much, take the 80 strokes in her place. It seemed like a lighter punishment, but 80 strokes could cripple a leg if not kill him outright. No! Huo Zisheng opened his mouth to protest, but Lu Mianmian threw herself into his arms. Brother Huo, I knew you'd protect me. I love you the most. And so, Huo Zisheng was dragged off to receive his punishment. By the time the marchiness of Yong'an rushed over, the caning was done. She cradled her son's bloody, battered body, sobbing until she nearly fainted. Hearing that he'd been implicated because of Lu Mianmian, the marchiness's face darkened. She didn't dare blame Xiaolian or vent her anger on me, so she unleashed all her fury on Lu Mianmian. From that day on, she forced her to kneel in the ancestral hall daily to atone for her sins. News from the marquisate reached me just as I was having breakfast in my palace, with Xiaolian beside me, smiling as he poured tea. We met after my coming-of-age ceremony. At that time, Huo Zisheng, my betrothed, was inseparable from Lu Mianmian, even composing mocking poems about my plump figure to please her. Not wanting my parents to worry, I left the mansion in secret, finding a secluded spot to cry. It was on one such day that I met Xiaolian. He listened to my tearful complaints without offering words of comfort. Instead, he quietly turned around and went to a tavern to buy me a pig's trotter. I couldn't help myself. I ate while crying. From then on, whenever I was upset, I'd go to that tree. Each time, Xiaolian would bring a pig's trotter. Back then, I had no idea who he was. When Huo Zisheng publicly declared his intent to marry Lu Mianmian, I cried all night. Xiaolian sat beside me, sharing the trotter, then asked seriously, "Do you want to go somewhere where no one dares mock you, where you can eat whatever you want and live freely?" I was stunned. Is there really such a place? He nodded, his eyes filled with temptation. "Become my consort, and for the rest of your life, you can eat as much as you want." And I nodded. Not long after Lu Mianmian married Huo Zisheng, I entered the palace. Xiaolian had been frail since childhood, and the state oracle had declared he couldn't hold a grand wedding before 30. Moreover, I wasn't one for ostentation, so I rarely appeared publicly. But since entering the palace, no one dared mock me anymore. Whatever I wanted to eat, Xiaolian indulged me. I once asked him, "Don't you think I'm fat?" He laughed and said, "We are naturally frail. If we married a woman as thin as a bamboo stick, wouldn't we look like a pair of chopsticks standing together? Besides, what do others know? You're just a bit round. My mother even said it's a sign of good fortune." But a few days later, I didn't expect Huo Zisheng dragging his crippled leg to enter the palace. During the celebration of the Empress Dowager's birthday, all civil and military officials entered the palace to offer their congratulations. Xiaolian, whether out of disdain for seeing Huo Zisheng hobble in with his crippled leg or simply out of boredom, issued an edict excusing him from attending the banquet. Yet he stubbornly dragged himself in, his eyes bloodshot, brazenly blocking my path. "Qinrui, can we talk for a moment?" I truly couldn't fathom what there was left to discuss between us, so I refused outright. But he grabbed my sleeve, choking out, "Qinrui, I know you still have me in your heart. That wretch Lu Mianmian. After I became crippled, she secretly took up with other men. Only now do I realize that back then, besides me, she was entangled with countless others. He gritted his teeth, his face full of resentment. It turns out she chose me only because I was your betrothed. She never loved me. It was all to use me to get revenge on you. Qinrui, I regret it now. You rushed into the palace just to make me jealous, didn't you? Now I understand your feelings. Let's run away together, to a place where no one knows who we are. I've already prepared our luggage. I nearly burst out laughing. I lived in luxury, the most favored in the harem. Why would I run away with him? Did he think I was a fool? Moreover, the feelings I had for him back then were only because of the betrothed title my parents had arranged. If it hadn't been Huo Zisheng I was engaged to, whoever it was would be the laughable past I'd reflect on today. I immediately took the hand of a palace maid and turned to leave. During the birthday banquet, a maid close to my mother rushed over, saying my mother had sprained her ankle. I hurried over, only to find in the room none other than Huo Zisheng, the man I just rejected. His eyes burned red, his words deranged. Qinrui, you must be mine. Go mad on your own. I absolutely don't like you. Impossible. No matter. Even if you don't like me after today, you'll have no other choice. Only then did I notice a strange scent in the air. I covered my nose, but it was too late. Before I fainted, I caught a glimpse of Huo Zisheng's crazed smile. At the birthday banquet, with fine wine aplenty and the sound of flutes and zithers filling the air, no one expected the noble consort to suddenly disappear. As the palace servants scrambled to search, Lu Mianmian suddenly stood, her eyes red with tears. I just saw the noble consort and my husband walking one after the other toward that side hall. They might still be there. I've long known my cousins still harbored feelings for my husband. I never imagined they dared do such a thing during the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. It's my fault for not managing them properly. The hall erupted in whispers, all eyes turning to her. The Empress Dowager narrowed her eyes, her gaze icy. Why aren't you leading the way? Lu Mianmian sobbed as she guided them, deliberately calling all the noble women to follow. At the door of the hall, sounds of heavy breathing and whispered indecencies seeped out, stirring the crowd. My cousin is too foolish. His Majesty and the Empress Dowager cherish her so much, yet she dared. I hope the Empress Dowager can show mercy for old time's sake and spare her life. I'm willing to divorce my husband to fulfill my cousin and him. Lady Huo is truly magnanimous, even pleading for the woman who stole her husband. To do such a thing during the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, she deserves to be torn apart. Liu Mianmian lowered her head, a satisfied smile playing on her lips as she placed her hand on the vermilion door and pushed it open with force. She rushed straight to the bed, yanking the curtain down and dragging the woman on it out into the center of the hall. The woman wore only a thin, cicada wing-like silk garment and was pulled to the floor. All eyes turned to her. Liu Mianmian covered her face, sobbing. Cousin, how could you do such a thing? You've wronged His Majesty, the Empress Dowager, and me. If you'd told me earlier that you loved the heir as your younger sister, I'd have gladly given him to you. But how could you, behind His Majesty's back, choose the birthday banquet to commit such debauchery? Cousin, it's not too late to repent. But no one reacted with the shock she expected. The entire hall looked at her with strange expressions. Puzzled, she lowered her gaze to see the woman before her, and her face turned deathly pale. For the woman dragged into the center of the hall wasn't me, but Princess Sishan, the Empress Dowager's granddaughter, infamous in the capital for her penchant for keeping male lovers, her obsession with handsome men, and her notorious debauchery. Princess Sishan stood coldly, gathering the thin silk around her, striding straight to Lu Mianmian. You're the one who ruined me. Lu Mianmian's face drained of color, her body trembling. How is it you? No, this is a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Where's Jiang Qinrui? Where is she hiding? She must have set this trap. She must be... Before she could finish, a resounding slap landed on her face. My imperial sister-in-law's name. Is it for you to call? Or do you still want to frame her again? Lu Mianmian frantically tried to explain. No, it's not. I wouldn't dare. But the second slap, then the third, landed without mercy. It's all Jiang Qinrui's fault. She deliberately framed me. She must be hiding in some room with Huo Zisheng right now. Are you calling me? A gentle voice rang out from the crowd. I stepped forward from behind the group of noblewomen watching the spectacle, with Xiaolian following leisurely behind me. Then, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I had long anticipated their shady scheme. How could I not be on guard? Lu Mianmian's face was bloodless, her voice muttering, "Impossible! How could this be? I clearly..." But her words were met with another earth-shattering slap from Princess Sishin. "You see your imperial sister-in-law and still don't pay respects? Kneel before me." With a kick, Liu Mianmian fell to her knees in the center of the hall, her dazed eyes looking up at me as if in a trance. The Empress Dowager shook her head slightly. "Such a lowly creature. Dares to scheme against my daughter-in-law, the Yong'an Marquisate. Isn't it a bit too bold?" The Marchioness of Yong'an paled, immediately prostrating herself. "It's my failure to discipline her properly. Upon returning to the mansion, I'll punish her severely." Xiaolian let out a cold laugh. "Our beloved consort has been repeatedly insulted and plotted against by your son and daughter-in-law. Your failure to discipline, how much is that worth?" "We see the Yong'an Marquisate's morals have grown too grand. From today, they are demoted to the Yong'an earldom. Reflect on your actions." The Marchioness's knees buckled and she collapsed to the ground. At that moment, Huo Zisheng, just waking on the bed, his legs still trembling, staggered forward, still calling, "Qin Rui." The Marchioness panicked, quickly covering his mouth. "Someone, drag this wretched son back to the mansion and beat him unconscious." Seeing the matter settled, the crowd gradually dispersed. In the hall, only Liu Mianmian remained, kneeling on the cold stone floor, her face swollen and red, her hair disheveled. I walked slowly to her, bending down to lift her chin, my voice cold yet soft. "Did I ever mistreat you? From the moment you stepped into the mansion, I always treated you as my closest sister. I've never understood. What did I do to make you hate me so much to the point you'd push me to my death?" Liu Mianmian bit her lip, her eyes brimming with resentful tears. "Your closest sister? In your eyes, I was nothing but a plaything. With one word from you, I was torn from my birth parents. If not for you, I'd have grown up by their side, their most beloved daughter, not just a guest cousin living off the Earl's charity." So that's how it was. I let out a soft laugh, not telling her that years ago, I begged my parents to take her in because I overheard her parents' conversation. They had said that if she wasn't chosen, they'd sell her as a child bride to avoid her competing for food with her younger brother, Yaozu. Out of pity, I knelt and pleaded with my parents to bring her in, to let her dress like me, eat like me, live like me. Who would have thought that this very act became the root of her hatred? A while later, she was taken away by the Marquisate's people. The Marchioness initially planned to let her die a quiet death, putting an end to it. But unexpectedly, after that incident, Princess Sishin became infatuated with Huo Zisheng, wanting to keep him as a male pet in her household. She didn't want Liu Mianmian's death to tarnish her reputation. The Marchioness, now the Countess, understood the hint. She forced Liu Mianmian and Huo Zisheng to divorce, then handed her back to her birth parents. The ones who came to fetch her were none other than the parents she had longed for over a decade. Liu Mianmian rushed to them in tears, unaware that their eyes appraised her like a piece of merchandise. That very night, she was sold to the Qingfeng brothel in the county town. She couldn't believe it. She seduced a man to buy her freedom and escaped back home. As expected, she was sold again. After a few such cycles, she finally came to her senses. On a moonless, windy night, she set the house ablaze, burning herself and the two she called parents to death. As for Huo Zisheng, after the Yong'an Marquisate was demoted to an earldom, no one pitied him anymore. He wasn't the only son in the family, and soon a younger brother replaced him as the heir. He himself was quietly sent in a small sedan to Princess Sishin's residence by the Countess, becoming one of her many male pets. With a crippled leg and a difficult temperament, in a household full of handsome men, Huo Zisheng was quickly neglected. Soon, no one heard news of him again. In my chambers, I reclined against Xiaolian's lap, my eyes half closed, holding a cup of warm tea as he peeled sweet lychees one by one to feed me. A few days ago, the imperial physician confirmed Xiaolian's health had fully recovered, and the state oracle declared there were no more restrictions. Thus, our wedding was officially scheduled. The last time you were titled consort, it was far too simple. This time, we will make it grand, so the entire realm knows you are our empress. Xialian was so excited he couldn't sleep, wishing he could oversee every detail of the grand wedding himself. Qinrui, we will make you the happiest woman in the world. On the day of the grand wedding, every detail was prepared so meticulously that I was both astonished and deeply moved. During the ceremony, he held my hand tightly, whispering, "Qinrui, we truly love you." I smiled softly, placing my hand on my still flat belly. I and our imperial child love you too. In Xiaolian's eyes, brimming with joy, a dazzling firework burst across the night sky. The light ahead was radiant. The strong wind lifted the veil of night. He and I stepped into tomorrow together. Epilogue. Empress Qinrui nurtures her pregnancy. In the harem, there were 3 great matters: eating, sleeping, and observing the empress's mood. And Empress Jiang, the one who once gnawed on pigs' trotters beside His Majesty, who slapped Liu Mianmian and put Lady Huo in her place, only grew more assertive after becoming pregnant. One day, in the Ximing Palace, the Empress lounged on a soft couch, one hand cradling her pregnant belly, the other holding a cup of bird's nest soup. A palace maid cautiously reported, "Your Highness, today the Changsho Palace sent over some pastries, saying they were made by the new consort who recently entered the palace." The Empress didn't even look up. "Has anyone tested them for poison?" "Yes, Your Highness." "Then bring them to His Majesty." The maid hesitated. "Your Highness, those pastries seem to have been sent for you." Jiang Qinrui raised an eyebrow, replying lazily, "All the more reason to give them to His Majesty. Let him taste them and see if they suit my palate." Sure enough, that evening, Xialian entered the palace with a belly full of grievances. "My beloved, we only ate 1 lotus pastry. Why must we spend the whole evening writing, 'I will not take another consort' 10 times?" Jiang Qinrui propped her chin, looking at him. "You ate the wrong pastry." Xialian couldn't help but laugh. "You've become even sharper-tongued since getting pregnant." She nodded confidently. "So don't get on my bad side." Another day, during court, the Empress Dowager quietly asked Xialian, "The harem is so quiet. Doesn't Your Majesty find it dull?" Xialian's expression didn't change. "With Qinrui, it's enough. If anyone dares stir trouble in the harem, Qinrui's 1 kick would suffice." The Empress Dowager, "Her feet are still swollen." "Then we'll kick for her." In her 8th month, Empress Jiang's belly was visibly large, but her temperament hadn't softened much. During a visit to the imperial physician for a checkup, the physician finished taking her pulse and said respectfully, "Congratulations, Your Highness. Your pulse is strong. It's likely a little prince." The Empress glanced at him. "Likely?" The physician trembled. No likelihood. It's definitely a prince." The Empress said casually, "If it's a princess, you'd better watch your head." The physician dropped to his knees. "This servant deserves death. I shouldn't have guessed recklessly." From a distance, His Majesty heard this and couldn't help but clutch his stomach, laughing. 10 days later, the Empress gave birth to a little princess, her face rosy like jade, her soft hair jet black. Even as a newborn, she furrowed her brows, looking just like her mother. Xialian held the child, marveling. "She looks so much like you. When she grows up, she'll surely be a princess who dares to beat her consort." Jiang Qinrui said proudly, "If her consort isn't worthy, she should beat him." The princess let out a small cry, and Xialian handed her a soft-boiled egg. "For you. If anyone bullies you in the future, smash this on their head." Jiang Qinrui raised an eyebrow. "Is Your Majesty teaching our princess to be a bandit?" Xialian said solemnly, "No, an empress." From then on, the emperor and empress shared a deep bond. The palace was harmonious, and the princess grew up amidst laughter and the doting gaze of the entire realm. Whenever Liu Mianmian's name was mentioned, those in the palace would only click their tongues in pity. Both women, yet one destroyed her life with jealousy, while the other lived true to herself and became the empress of the realm.